A More Beautiful Life podcast, recognizing, appreciating, and integrating earliest life experiences. There are times in our lives when we all yearn for something. More contact with others, a special relationship, a better job, more time to oneself, more respect, more love, more support, or, well, anything. It can all be summed up in wanting a more beautiful life. You just fill in the blank for what equals beauty for you. My specialty is healing our earliest traumas to discover our truest nature. I've been working at understanding this paradigm for a long time, since 1999, when a client remembered her birth during a craniosacral session. She explained to me that she felt healing her birth experience would relieve her lifelong depression. That experience took hold of me with such passion so that years later I'm filling in the gap between our ancestral past and our present lives with recognition of our earliest life experiences starting preconception. It involves appreciating how we adapted to our difficulties and then integrating any overwhelming experiences into our current lives. Welcome to A More Beautiful Life. This podcast includes luminaries from the fields of infant mental health, prenatal and perinatal psychology, colleagues and experts in trauma resolution, advanced body workers, clients who want to share their stories, authors of pivotal books and articles, and people who, in my opinion, have sought out a more beautiful life. Join me, Kate White, and our honored guest as we explore a more beautiful life. Enjoy. Today on the show I have Maggie McIlvaine. She's also known as Margaretta McIlvaine. She is an intuitive healer and clairvoyant to assist clients in connecting with all aspects of their multidimensional selves so that life can be lived and experienced from a larger perspective and a higher frequency. She has learned how to access wisdom directly from the higher planes. Her approach to transformational healing combines her form of formal training at the Brennan School of Healing, the Virginia School of Massage, studies in acupressure, Shiatsu, guided imagery, numerous Buddhist retreats, and all levels of Reiki training with her own unique experiences of self-healing and self-transcendence. She is also certified to teach Integral Hatha Yoga. Her love and appreciation of nature inspired her to create the Bridge Between the Worlds, a retreat center with a mission to assist others to connect with the essence of spirit and intelligence in nature and to recognize the healing power of elements in the natural world. Margaretta has studied many different healing modalities over the 20 years. Margaretta's approach to transformational healing combines her formal training coupled with discoveries based on her own experiences of self-healing and self-transcendence. Her work takes her to California, New Mexico, Colorado, Maryland, and Tokyo, Japan. She directs the Bridge Between the Worlds for the study of subtle energy medicine and for studying and connecting with the essence of the spirit of nature. And today on the show, I have my friend, Margaretta McIlvaine. Actually, we call her Maggie McIlvaine. She is a friend and a colleague and someone I've known a long time here in Charlottesville. She runs the Bridge Between the Worlds, which is a retreat center out in Keswick. And she's a fabulous healer and she has just the most beautiful space. And well, anyway, we'll have a conversation, but welcome to the show, Maggie.
Thank you so much, Kate. It is an honor to be here. And I love the work that you're doing and that you've brought here for so many years. And it's great to be able to have a conversation with you about it.
Yeah, so it's not just my work. I want to talk about your work because, you're the reason why I started doing a lot of process workshops and things out at the bridge, and the bridge is just the most beautiful place. And I think it's just because of you, Maggie, because that's just who you are. So I'm wondering if you could let people know a little bit more about you and the bridge between the worlds, that would give them an idea about some of the things that you do there.
Absolutely. Yes, I came here in 2003, and I had a vision seeded in me when I was living in Japan as an English, teaching English as a second language, as you know. It was in Tokyo. And I had been teaching for about 13 years, and I kept knowing there was, that was a stepping stone to something else. And I, said some prayers and, just wanted to listen to my own inner wisdom and my guidance to see what the next step was. And what I kept getting a sense of is that I really needed to learn to do some energy work and healing work. And I'd been studying Buddhism and I'd done my Reiki training, and I wasn't quite sure, how this was all going to, flow out. But I met a woman who was going to the Barbara Brennan School of Healing in Tokyo, and she was traveling to New York 5 times a year. And I had the most extraordinary experience. And it was at that moment when I jumped off the table of her healing room, I said, this is my next step. And I felt very guided to come to the East Coast in Virginia. And I did. And I started to study at the Barbara Brennan School of Healing. And I also did massage therapy, in conjunction. And little by little, the vision began to kind of seed deeper within me. And I felt that the next step was to start a healing center where I could provide this work, but in nature, so that people could really connect with themselves, each other, and with the natural world again, to find these deeper wisdom places within themselves and get their own answers.
Will you facilitate their getting their answers, Maggie? I mean, you did a beautiful job making the bridge, and I'll put the link to your website in the show notes. But your work is just exquisite, and I have told everybody that I meet that it's not the usual work. It's a combination of just your connection with the greater spiritual essence of somebody and what they can have access to. But you open the door, so to speak. So I'm wondering if you could explain to people about your work, because I've had Barbara Brennan work. It's not what you do, even though I know you incorporate it. So how would you describe a typical session with Maggie McIlvaine?
I'd be happy to. Yes, the work with Barbara Brennan created a foundation, but so much of my own experiences with my own transcendence and healing wove into that, and a lot of Buddhist studies also wove into the type of work that occurs. And so I'll just describe a session for some people out there to get a sense. And when people come for a session, they come often for sometimes physical ailments, emotional issues, emotional trauma, sometimes some, mental difficulties, and some spiritual disconnect or sadness. So a variety of people come. And when we begin to work together, it's a lot about, they're releasing a lot of their trauma, but we sit together for about 20 minutes and begin to talk. And I think this is really where a lot of the magic happens, because I don't have a set thing that I'm, going to do a modality. But in that time together, I really open up and I listen deeply, and together we create a field. And in that field, what comes out that people share is so profound. And sometimes they think they're coming for one reason, but they'll come, they'll realize in that moment when we're talking, it's a very different thing they've come to me for. And so in doing this conversation, it feels like we're helping them connect with the place, sort of like we'll talk about Greece in a minute, and the Asclepian work that I, was very interested in studying when I went to Greece. You open up like a pathway for people to feel safe, feel spacious, relax enough so they can begin to reach down deep inside themselves and connect to their wisdom self. Mm-hmm. And so when this happens in this conversation, we wait for the moment where we feel like we've really landed on the place for the deep reason why they're with coming to see me. And then after we do that piece of conversation, then we go onto the table and do the table work. And whatever insight and, intention that they have now is so clear within their body that we can do the energy work to help cleanse and clear the physical, emotional, mental, and kind of spiritual log jams that occur. And then that's much more freed. And so mainly it is that I help them open up to their deep wisdom so that they can have an insight. And sometimes they'll say, "Oh, you're so amazing. I've had this amazing insight," but it isn't me. It's the field that we create together. And that allows the answers to begin to arise.
Well, that's true. In my experience with you, Maggie, but also like you talk to the guides of the people. Like you have like a direct link to something else. And it's really valuable because they're very direct, these guides. I mean, at least they were with me when I get my sessions with you, they're like they don't pull any punches, those guides. I mean,
They're very they're very correct. And I'm glad that you're mentioning this, because when we do the piece that I was just explaining, when they let me know when we're ready to get on the table. And so they let me know when the person has landed enough in themselves to be able to be receptive. And so when we do get on the table, then actually you're exactly right. I open up and it's just beautiful how the communication comes through, and they pretty much guide the session.
yeah.
So it's a conversation that I have as listening to what is being said with the client and then guiding them along, to be able to receive that well. And often I'll say, "I have no idea what this means," and I'll share it, and they'll
Yes.
be very surprised.
Yes, yes, and they're consistent, your guides. Or
Yes.
these guides, maybe they're my guides. I don't know, but you also do touch work and you do energy work and you do touch work. So it's just an exquisite, like little, actually big package of it of skills that really, I mean, it's life-changing and transformational, and it's so I send people out to the bridge to see you, Maggie, and I also, we've just done this wonderful birth process workshop where people can do their early work and then go see you, or go see you and do their early work. I mean, it just is a wonderful combination. And the bridge that you've made there, I just call it the bridge for short, but the bridge between the worlds, it's really beautiful. And it has a lot of wonderful water features because I know you love that. And
Yes.
every corner is filled with beauty, which is why it's so nice to be welcoming you to this podcast, The More Beautiful Life.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Kate. I feel like it's like a dovetail. Exactly. And I always have felt, once I had this sense that I wanted to start a healing center, that the beauty that we see outside of us helps us feel the reflection of the beauty that we have inside of ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
I feel that so much of what's happening in the world, and for a long time, that there's such a disconnect. It's like the theme of separation. There's a disconnect that we have from ourselves, from each other, and mainly from the natural world. And when disconnect can again begin to be healed, and we can feel the unity that we have with ourselves and with each other and with all things, it just changes our whole perception of how we see the world and each other and ourselves. And in that shifted perception, that's when so much more can open up for how we can live a more beautiful life and connect to a kindness with ourselves and with others in the world. And it feels
Yes.
like the theme of separation is a really clear, problem that we've got in the world that is being mended all the time.
Well, we need a lot more of it though, Maggie, which is nice because you're bringing more. Now, you have talked with me about your visions for the work that you're doing, the healing modalities and the healing model at the bridge between the worlds, and that you recently participated in a documentary about Asclepius. Is that how I say it?
That's exactly right. Asclepius. It's the
So,
Asclepian healing sanctuaries of ancient Greece.
so would you be willing just to share with our listeners a little bit about that and how you're bringing that model here into the bridge between the worlds?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. It was absolutely an extraordinary trip that I went to Greece in September, and it just reignited so much of the vision that I had 20 years ago that has been wonderful. But somehow I realized that the model that I'd created, the Bridge Between the Worlds, which was a place for people to come in nature where they could be near water. And I have, the hot tub, and I've got a sauna, and I've got nature trails and places where people can have their own private retreats and then do sessions and, then have their time to integrate and all of that. When I went to the Asclepian Sanctuary, it's about 2 hours north of Athens, I realized that the model that I've created the Bridge Between the Worlds by was the model of the Asclepian healing sanctuaries of ancient Greece.
Wow. They had
And
beautiful places like this, and people would come and stay and then get healing.
absolutely, absolutely. It's a place that's actually I have a little book here. Epidaurus is the place where I went. And it took people sometimes a month or two to even get there. So the pilgrimage, once they have come for whatever some people had really very serious physical ailments and lots of different types of things that they came to these centers for. These were the hospitals of the early days. And they would take a pilgrimage there. And the pilgrimage just to get there was part of the healing process and what occurred along the way. And then when they arrived at this center, they were fed well. They had healing warm baths. They had massage. They had herbal treatments. They had energy treatments. They had, I think there was an underground labyrinth that they worked with. And all this preparation. And we learned that there were, it was quite extensive preparation before the main healing that occurred at the dreaming sanctuary at the Asclepian Center. So once that they fasted and then they ate well and they cleansed and they had theater that was sort of like an emotional catharsis. They had gymnasium that they did lots of exercises to strengthen the body. It was such a holistic healing center. And then once that they were deemed kind of ready to receive insights and wisdom, which is what I kind of do when I'm doing that talk, and we wait till we receive that insight and wisdom. In this case, they would, when they were deemed they were ready to receive this, they would go into the Asclepian Dreaming Temple. It was a huge building, huge, beautiful building, and different. I think many people were in there sometimes at the same time, but each one would have someone that would sit next to them, and they would be prepared to sleep and dream. And in this dream, Asclepius would come to them, I think, as a metaphor of their wisdom self, frankly. And then in this healing dream, it would show them the reason for the sickness, how it started, what created it, and more importantly, what was needed to assist them for healing. So then they would wake up and they would tell the person who was their sitter what the dream was, and then they'd enact this and be with this and get the herbs. And they had extraordinary, sometimes miraculous healings from these places. So much so that we write our testimonials on, to people on our website and that kind of thing. Well, they carved them in stone there. Wow. And then as we were walking around this Asclepian sanctuaries, you would see some from here, it's just one area where you'd read people who had had extraordinary experiences. So I think in essence, it's looking at healing from another higher perspective. There's many, many ways that we can be with how we heal ourselves and what the causes of illness and healing, or the healing can assist.
Well, that sounds wonderful. So it's a little different than what you do, but similar, because people can stay out there at the bridge in these beautiful rooms that you have. So they can dream. They can dream.
And mainly it's like have different insights and get their own aha, because the noise of everyday life and the background noise of things is quiet, much quieter. So then they can actually hear themselves and be still and connect with themselves. So that's my vision now, is to bring these for the center. It's like I had this dream about bringing the ancient grains forward. It's bringing this vision that they used in ancient Greece that was so successful, and to be able to bring this into modern times and see how people can be tended to and listened to, and with different types of modalities, and certainly the one that I offer energetically to help them recover their wholeness.
Right. Oh, that sounds great. And you're going to give a talk about this, right? Soon at the
I
bridge?
will, yes, exactly. I will be doing that in late January. I think it's January 28th, Sunday at 3. And I'd love to guide people through my journey and have some wonderful footage and photographs and other stories of people who were teaching and talking to us when we were at the Asclepian Healing Center.
Yeah. How long did you stay there, Maggie? Did you go for just a few weeks, right? Or a week?
10 days. It was 10 days.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. And I just was so impressed because it wasn't just one center that's in Greece. They were all around the Mediterranean. And there's one, a very famous one in Turkey as well.
Mm-hmm.
So these, like I said, were the ancient places where people were able to come and, find the healing and, different insights that they needed. But they also it was the beginning of modern medicine. So when I was there, I saw some tools that they used for, minor surgeries and that kind of a thing. So it was a weaving of both, kind of like with the left brain and the right brain, weaving both sides.
Uh-huh. Wow. Ancient times, like medicine, the history of medicine, I'm sure has a huge part of that's Greek and Roman and all the ancient European ways. Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think what interested me so much, though, Kate, that I'd love to share with the listeners is that it was a balance, much more so in ancient times, of dreaming and intuition and insights mixed with medicines and certain things that you ate and that type of thing. So there's a balance between it. And then little by little, this happened in ancient Greece that they began to move away from the insights and move away from
mm,
dreaming and kind of moving more into just a left brain reductionist way of looking at things. And I feel in doing that there's some positive things with that, certainly. But in doing so, it's as if we've lost a whole other side that can be so important and just as effective. And so I
right.
feel the balance of both. And I remember I told you a while ago, I used to I've been to maybe 6 or 7 surgeries. Heart surgery was the main one. I would go as the kind of energetic support for
Mm-hmm.
clients. And I loved that because that was such a beautiful balance of they needed the heart surgery, the physical act, but they also really needed the preparation for it and working with their energy field and getting a sense of what else was happening that started that situation in the first place. So I had some extraordinary experiences balancing both of those modalities together.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
That sounds so good. Indigenous ways also have dreaming. Dreaming was really important to a lot of indigenous groups in North America, I know. So
Absolutely.
yeah, but it sounds like you're going to restore people's intuition and self sort of inner wisdom, along with giving them like a great deal of beauty out there at the bridge between the worlds, Maggie.
Oh, that's a beautiful way of putting it. Absolutely. And just to clarify, it's helping people to restore that within themselves.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
help them to see that they already have that
Mhm.
and to
Well,
peel back the layers that would keep them from their own knowing.
well, good. Well, that sounds really great. I hope you get a lot of people to come to your talk. I'll make sure that people see that in the show notes as well. And I wonder, Maggie, is there anything else you would like people to know about yourself or the bridge between the worlds?
Absolutely. People also come here for writers' retreats or artist retreats or times that they just want to have a peaceful place away from the busyness of life. And so that's also a wonderful offering that people can come for and show that and bring their own work here.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place to retreat, especially in the warm months because you have a beautiful lake that's right there next to the retreat center. And
Yes.
I would definitely advocate for that. You can go swimming in the lake and then do the hot tub and the sauna. We used to just sauna,
You
lake,
loved
hot
that.
tub, sauna, lake, hot tub. Um, but it's also like there's some magical things that happen there. Like that's why I like to do the birth process workshops there, because the invisible world just so responds. And
Oh, Kate, I'm glad you're bringing that up. I remember every single time we had a birth process here, there was a certain animal that would come as a symbol in a
yeah,
way for the
yeah,
process. And
yeah.
sometimes I'd just be so surprised. It was like what you would say, creator in your face.
Yes, creator in your face. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Like the
And
time we
they
had
were
the
almost,
eagle come, I mean, there's just
that's right. That's right. Like spirit animals coming forward for
yeah,
us as
yeah.
teachers. I love that. Yes.
And you've had people out there who've blessed the land, like that. You said you had a llama, and other people have come there just to bless the land, and the land is very responsive. So it's a place where you can go and feel the truth of all that. So yeah,
Oh, I love that you've said that because that's one of the, I'm clever. I would like to make that point too, that I feel like that we've really had a co-creation. I've had a co-creation with the land here.
yeah,
And, as we speak about everything is conscious and the land is conscious, everything on the land is conscious. And it feels like there's just beautiful kind of co-creation and weaving with the beings on the land and the invisible beings on the land. And since we've been doing this for 20 years, you can really feel the field and the support and the safety that's been built up here over the years. It's kind of palpable for some people. I'm always surprised also when people come in and ask, like, what, I feel so different here. And it's the land itself that
yeah.
exists as much as the modality that I'm offering and what we work with together. But in essence, it's all about consciousness, isn't it?
Yes, it
Just
is. And
conscious and aware.
yeah, I remember feeling very hopeful at times when I got to stay there, especially in the cabin, and that's not part of the main house, and just feeling that healing can happen there. There's a hopeful feeling at the bridge between the worlds, and with you, Maggie.
Oh, Kate, thank you so much. I think that after all these years, as I said, like a field has been created,
Yeah,
a
I
healing
agree.
field. And once it's strengthened and strengthened, then it just has a life of its own. And people walk into that field. And
Yeah,
that's what gets to come back to the sessions that I do with people. Together, we create that field
yeah.
together ourselves. And within that, then the opening can occur for what beautiful insights that can come to assist them to find clarity, balance, focus, and alignment with themselves again.
Well, that sounds like a good place to complete for today, Maggie, because I like all that, listening to all that. And I'm wondering if you could just answer the question too that I ask all my guests, like what makes your life more beautiful?
Oh my goodness, that's such a beautiful question.
It's true.
And one of the things that makes my life more beautiful is actually bringing this vision that I was sharing just now, bringing that into manifestation. And that I feel so honored and so grateful to be on the land and be with the garden and the herb garden and the lake and the paths and just
Hmm.
be in tune with that and know that that vision's coming more and more and more into manifestation. That's one of my favorite things that makes my life feel much more beautiful and to share with others always.
Yeah, well, it is a very beautiful place to go, and those gardens are so amazing the way they come and go in waves of beauty, the flowers and all of the birds and butterflies and all the things that happen out there at the bridge. It's definitely a place you can go and just be with beautiful things, beautiful
Love
life. Yeah.
riding the wave of nature
Yeah.
and seeing the movement and flow and the ever-changing aspects of it and which flowers come up in spring and late spring and summer and then moving through and you're just feeling much more like interconnected with all of it because after all we are nature ourselves too. We're
Yes,
not.
we are. Yes, you're right.
Yes,
Okay, well, thanks for visiting with us today, Maggie.
it's been wonderful, Kate. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to a More Beautiful Life podcast. To support our show, please go to Patreon /A More Beautiful Life.